Hey guys, how's it going? You're watching VaulSC. As always, we're going to take a look at a game of infiNity between the Imperial Service sectorial. The guys haven't cranked out in a while, but you might remember if you've been following me for a number of years that they were my #1 sectorial and #1 faction for a long time, and I've kind of moved away from them because so much other cool stuff's come out since then, but I'll always think of them as one of the top factions and one of the ones that I'm best with, so good to come back home to them, and of course up against my buddy Matt with his Ariadna, who I've been facing quite a lot over the last few months, even at the tournament as well. We're going to be playing a game of Frostbite, and that is one of the missions in the next event we're going to be going to in July, so getting in some practice with it. One interesting thing about Frostbite is that you've got to secure the exclusion zone in the middle, and securing it is not a matter of having more points inside it, it's having your Datatracker in there while your opponent doesn't have the Datatracker in there, and that's one thing that we're going to notice trips me up in this game, as being a bit rusty with the mission, completely forget how that actually goes until it's too late towards the end. But let's have a look at the table being laid out here. Me and my opponent actually agreed that this was quite a good table layout. After playing on it at the end of the game, we felt that it actually served us quite well because there were some really long fire lanes, but they were cut off by the middle sort of buildings. And the really, really long fire lanes would be like through here, but it would be at a very narrow angle, so you could very easily cautious move past it. Same with this area along here, sort of blocked off by some of the terrain. But also there was quite a lot of play with the upper levels. Like if you're on level 2, you had a lot of vision to the other building rooftops, but you could avoid that particular side of the game if you wanted to. Anyway, back to Frostbite. Gonna get a different pen color here. Let's get this. So Frostbite, as you guys may know from playing it before, there are 3 consoles in the middle. What you want to do is walk over to one of those consoles, pass a willpower check to turn it on, and once you've turned it on, you can then activate one of your heaters. And there are 2 heaters. One of them is covering your deployment zone, the other one's covering the small strip between your deployment zone and the exclusion zone known as the dead zone. So for the other player, it's around about here. Just click our way through. There you go. And if your models, bumping the desk chair here, if your models are in a zone that's not heated by a heater, when the game ends, they die unless they're a Datatracker, a tag, or a heavy infantry model. So usually what you're wanting to do is move out, for example, turn on the heater, and then heat up your entire deployment zone where most of your troops are going to be. And this is significant because there are quite a lot of army points up for grab, objective points up for grab at the end of the game when we're determining army kills. So if you neglect to turn on any heating units at all, your whole army gets wiped out. Having said that, I have managed to win this mission in the past by having a very expensive model like a Sphinx, which is immune to the cold because it's a tag and is worth so many points that you've devastated your opponent's army and you can win that way. But generally, this meta strategy, I feel, is to try and get your Datatracker into the exclusion zone while killing theirs, and that's a big 5-point swing, which is going to be more than enough to win the game for you. So second turn can be very nice if you can protect your Datatracker. First turn can also be very nice if you're trying to assassinate their Datatracker. So, both angles work relatively well, and that's one of the reasons why I really like this mission. Multiple ways to win, multiple strategies viable. Let's have a brief look at the army list. So I am back to playing the Sujian, one of the more powerful things about ISS in my opinion, and we're just going to go straight ahead for this funny looking army list with 20 full orders, the Horde. And the great thing about Imperial Service is you can have all of these, top range, mid-tier models that are fairly expensive while still having 20 orders in your army because you've got access to the group of 8 Quangxi. What I used to do back in the day was to have 2 Celestial Guards with Quangxi control devices in either group because they're very good for the smoke launchers, but I've decided to play it this way this time and just have a full group committed to just the Sujian. My reasoning for that is that you can spend all the orders on the Sujian if you want to, but if he dies or if he can't get much work done, there's still a lot you can do with those regular orders being put into the Guangxi that are moving up, or the battery of Guangxi held back into deployment zone in the link team, because they're moving out, firing smoke grenades places, and that's going to set you up for Group 2, where Group 2 can make use of that. You've got the Ninja moving out in the cover of smoke, or the Rushi, synergizing with it with its MSV2. Group 2's got the soft attack in there to revive the Rushi should it fall. Obviously, Ninja there. Dakini TACbot for those scenarios where you need to shoot something a long distance. If you've got an assisted fire Rushi going up against a Kamau sniper and a link team, that's not as effective as a Dakini TACbot because of the range of the HMG is a bit better there. And with remote presence, if he does get shot, you can repair him and keep having a go at that until that enemy Kamau is destroyed. So at least you've got a tool for that scenario. Other than that, though, Hacker to provide assisted fire to the aforementioned models. The only thing in this list which I feel a bit uncomfortable with is just this 21 Bounty Hunter. I had exactly 21 points left. I would have loved to include Major Luna. I didn't have the extra SWCs for it. If you like this list and you want to try a variation of it, you could consider dropping either the Dakini or the Rushi and putting a Major Luna in there. I love these two models so much, I'm not willing to do that. But the next best thing is a 21-point model like a basic Sniper Bounty Hunter. And he's not bad, he's just not that good either. So that's what I'm running for this game. My opponent with Ariadna, also two groups. His first group's got the veteran Kazakh. I always questioned this guy when I looked at his profile, but I'm starting to like him more and more and more. He makes a very good data tracker. He's a very good midfield piece. He ties up a lot of points. He's good at walking into a zone. And the thing about Veteran Level 2 is he's got NWI and Sixth Sense Level 2, and he's immune to, because it includes Veteran Level 1, I believe, he's immune to hacking, but he's, but he's immune to jammers, I think, with Veteran Level 1 being included in that, if I'm not wrong. So even though he's not, a super powerful gun, compared to the Spetsnaz, which we'll talk about in a second, he can be very, very useful. In this game, there will be a point in the battle report, and I want to stress this, and I will bring it up at the time. We forgot for this game that he did actually have Sixth Sense Level 2, so that's going to come up later in the game, and we'll talk about that in detail. My opponent, I feel like he may have watched my previous bat reps against him and decided to include the double Spetsnaz this time, just because it's such a great way of using and utilizing your SWC points. The good thing about the two Spetsnaz is they can occupy two sides of your deployment zone, and if one of them can't get the angles because it has to relocate, the other one's there to do that. They're such a good unit for clearing long-range arrows. I think it makes a lot of sense to put them both in there. Of course, you've got the cheerleaders and the line Kazakhs. Oxy McNeil's very good choice always. Foxtrot, same thing there. My opponent's a really big fan of the Antipodes pack. I'm not a big believer in them, but he likes to make them work. Group 2, Ermendino's always very solid. The Chasseurs, again, very, very solid. This is not a mission where you really need a lot of specialists, but it's handy to have them. He's gone with a double mine layer, probably because he's already got the Foxtrot in there to do that job. Even the veteran Kazakh's a specialist as well. And then you've got another Foxtrot back here, so I think the specialist button pressing is covered, shall we say. So that's the matchup. You guys have had a look at the lists. We've reviewed the mission a little bit. Let's get into it. I suppose this will be a visual representation here of my army. You can see the beautiful 20 green orders shining and sparkling there with the matching classified card to go. My classified card is Experimental Drug, which is very easy for Imperial Service to complete because you can use Biolocator on your Guangxi to create a corpse for your Sophitek to revive. Anyway, so the dice roll is won by my opponent, and he chooses to take the table side, as far as I recall. No, that's actually not what happens. He chooses to take first turn, just because his experience of playing against me in the last couple of battles that we've had, he usually expects me to take first turn, and knowing that I prefer that against his faction, he's decided to take first turn. So I've given him the table side that I don't want, and I've taken the one I want, and we're deploying. Let's go have a look. So this is his left-hand side. We've got some cheerleaders hanging out round back. There's a chassis mine layer with a, well, this is the chassis mine layer here, I think, with the mine over here. No, actually, I can't remember. So there's a mine here. That's the chassis mine layer. This is a foxtrot, as far as I recall. There's a Spetsnaz and a decoy hanging around here with another cheerleader, and his dogs are out in the middle side of the table of the deployment zone. There they are there with the handler at the back, and a couple of more of camo markers here. I believe this is again the Chassis mine layer through the middle. So many camo markers. I've artificially placed this objective marker on the building just to stop people from going prone in this little triangle behind the planter, so that's inaccessible. But here you have on the right hand side the veteran Kazakh himself. There is a Spetsnaz again on this building near to him. There's another Kazakh here, volunteer, war corps at the back, another Ermedino. Really just spreading things out and deploying them as you'd normally expect to see. So that's an extreme look at his right-hand flank, yet another camo marker right around the side. Note that this is actually boxed in where the table edge is, so you can't really, sorry, I've blocked a person off there. You can't really get anybody in here from, unless you come around there, but there is a spot where you can put in a drop trooper in the corner, mind you, so he has got that covered off. Over to me. So we'll go from right to left, extreme right hand side of the table. So that's a Guangxi. The ones with the chrome and grey vests are the free range Guangxi that are not part of the link, whereas the yellow ones are involved in a link with this Celestial Guard on this building. So Rushi here, Sujian, the Sujian standing up to start off by covering that long lane. He's a very good ARO piece at the start just because he's so tough. He's got a Panzerfaust, and against Ariadna you can hold them off with a Spitfire sometimes, and if they do knock him back with a Spetsnaz, he can always just drop prone behind cover. CSU over here, can't remember what metachemistry picked up. Got a Bounty Hunter behind the heating unit, and a Celestial Guard hacker in the corner of that building. We'll take a closer look at that momentarily. So here we are here. Oh, I'll have to use the zoom in function a little bit more often. This is actually pretty cool. I keep forgetting to use that. So the link team, as you can see, this is going to be the link leader. This guy's also going to be the data tracker later on. There's a Guangxi behind the billboard, but the other three are down on ground level and not prone. And the Celestial Guard hacker, of course, not part of the link. That's only for the control device. Towards the middle, I've deployed a Bounty Hunter Sniper who's picked up a Panzerfaust with his booty roll. There's a Dakini attack bot, which is rather bravely covering this line here, so he will get shot if my opponent decides to take control of that line, but that's facing an area which is, I believe, not part of his deployment zone, but it is connected with a bridge to an area over there. Now we realized after deploying that you're not actually allowed to deploy in base contact with the heaters, so I had to move this guy back a tiny little bit so he does not actually have cover at the start of the game. I'll have to move him in there. Software deck nearby to revive the Dakini. I felt like that would be worth it. Don't have a Yudbot unfortunately, but the Rushi in the corner near the truck is a lot safer. On the left-hand side of the table, we've got a couple more free-range Guangxi, as I like to call them, who are going to impetuous out around the sides. Flash pulse spot covering this little angle here, which is going to help protect the link team's position, I'm hoping. Another CSU there. I'm going to be opting to put my lieutenant up on top of this building as well. Keeping the lieutenant in reserve just because I'm expecting Uxie McNeil to be the reserve trooper. Oh, and I've got the HVT over by the side here. So this is a little photo indicating, you know, the Bounty Hunter having to be moved back a tiny little spot so it's not touching the Frostbite heater. Hidden deployment, photo verification of my ninja out in the midfield. Then we have my opponent placing a reserve trooper, which I believe is secondary Spetsnaz near to his veteran Kazakh. My reserve trooper is actually going to be my lieutenant, who has opted not to go on that building but next to the CSU and Sujian. Some good bodyguards there, and he's prone, so hopefully we'll be okay. And then we choose our data trackers. Mine's going to be the Celestial Guard with control device. Just because it's good at moving out in the link, it's got a bit of muscle, it retains 6th Sense level 2, so good defense. And at the end of the game, I may be able to move it out, throw smokes down, move into the exclusion zone with the help of the smokes. And his his data tracker choice is going to be his veteran Kazakh, a great choice because it's quite a good model for getting in there and quite good for defending itself with that ability, 6th Sense level 2. So Ariadna turn 1, impetuous move from the Umandino going towards my lines, the other one moving out on the other side of the table. Then we have the one on his left flank moving towards this little objective room building, not used as an objective room per se, just as scenery. So he moves over there and presses the button, and that will allow him to turn on the objective in his heating zone, the heating unit, so that his deployment zone is going to be heated for the rest of the game. Moving out with the other one with his irregular order as well. Then he's deciding to move a bit further forward. He's going to come through here and go after my Datatracker. Now this is a good strategy. It's a good play to make, because if you kill your opponent's Datatracker, not only do you get points right off the bat for that, but it means that they cannot gain the points for controlling the exclusion zone at the end of the game. They're going to have to rely on winning by army points alone and preventing you from doing the other objectives. So this is his plan. He's already succeeded in pressing the button. He's already out there. He may as well carry on. So he does start moving through, throwing smoke grenades from his position in the building there so he can move across. Now, as he does so, he also encounters this flash pulse spot, which has a go at him, but again, he throws another smoke to block. Again, I thought about revealing the ninja, who was on the stairs here, to try and slow him down, just because I was worried about my Celestial Guard, but I thought, well, the ninja would get chain rifled, that would be a horrible waste, and the Celestial Guard may well actually just defend himself anyway, since he's got Synthesis level 2, combi rifle, link team, all of that fun stuff, you know? So he comes walking up the stairs, doesn't have a lot of orders left to do this, comes right around, and he's just going to go in for it. The great thing is that I can delay, I can check to see whether he's going to fight me in close combat or use his chain rifle. So when he does come in there, I elect to shoot him with the combi rifle, so it goes BS 14 plus range, 2 dice on 17s, where he's got a single dice on something like a 20 with his close combat attack. So he can do it, he can kill me. And if he does win the face-to-face roll and I tank the armor saver, I do have a Celestial Guard with combi rifle back here to shoot him as he moves up. But it's worth it. It's just such a cheap model, and the risk to reward ratio is so high, it's just really worth doing. But unfortunately for him, the combi rifle wins and the Umandino is shot. So a little bit of poor luck there for the Umandino, but his chances of success there weren't like huge. So he now moves out with the doggos from Group 1, the Antipodes. And this time I do elect to reveal the ninja, and reveal the ninja just to discover. And let me talk you through this. My feeling is that if the Antipodes get into close combat with the Celestial Guard somehow, that could be really problematic because they are a bit more likely to kill it, given that they can potentially get a couple of guys in there to chain gang him. If I reveal the ninja, I can't get shot by the doggos, so at least the ninja can hold off for a bit. If something comes around to shoot the ninja, I may be able to dodge my way back up the stairs. And in a situation like this, if I discover the dogs, I might be able to start firing the bow at them. So I was conflicted about this decision. In hindsight, I feel like maybe I shouldn't have, but I did it, and it actually kind of worked well for me in this instance. So the ninja does discover the lead dog, and he does reveal a Spetsnaz to come after me. So the position of the ninja is here, and as you can see, he's revealed this Antipode. You're going to be noticing in the rest of this turn that he's using the old school out of production Antipodes, not the new ones, unfortunately. So the Spetsnaz now moves up the stairs, gets line of sight, and fires at the ninja with his HMG. It's +3 for range, ignores cover, -6 for TO camo, so 9s on 4 dice, whereas the ninja's dodging on maybe 10 or 11 or whatever he's got, maybe 12. And the Spetsnaz wins this and kills the ninja, so unfortunately he's up on material now, but at least I know where the Spetsnaz is. He's going to have to recamo him later, and I've slowed him down now, so the Antipodes will have less orders to go over and actually eat up my trooper. My opponent, even though he's put all the work in moving through the middle, decides to actually change direction with them and come back around the other way. So he was going to move like through around here to get to the Celestial Guard. He's now changing direction and is going to come around this way and go after a different target. And I think we're both realizing that if we go back through the photos and notice this guy's position, it's actually going to be quite difficult to get 2 of the Antipodes in base contact with him. I think it's possible, but it might actually be kind of tricky. Like getting the base of the Antipode here and the other one around through here, there might not actually be enough room to get them both into contact, and they can't really fight over the ledge really. So attacking one at a time, this guy's chances of living wouldn't have been bad. So coming back to where we were. So they start moving around the side here. There is a smoke grenade blocking me off, but once they start coming around, the Guangxi and Link team can start discovering. They've got +3 to their discover attempts due to the Link team bonus, and now starting to do it. So Guangxi's just discovering them one at a time. The plan for him is to move them all through here, dive over with super jump, and get into combat with the Rushi, the Sujian, potentially my lieutenant. But it's going to be difficult moving past the lanes of fire of the Guangxi here, and a Link team. All of these guys are going to shoot them as they come over there, and they're going to have to try and find room to do it. So let's just see how that gets resolved. So initially, we've got one of them diving over to the Rushi and the other one hanging out here. This guy gets destroyed by all of the bullets coming his way, but when he goes for the Rushi and attacks in close combat, the Rushi amazingly tanks the armor save, so he gets a bit unlucky on that one. Continuing to dive around, you know, he's just barreling into things and taking hits. He can't get... so this gets really awkward. Notice the position here of this guy. This is the first dog that came in, got hit by something as it did so and didn't actually get wiped off the board, so now is a corpse. That actually blocks off the contact space, so the second one diving in can go after the Rushi, but the third one can't actually fit, unfortunately, so he has to go after the Sujian. So unfortunately, this turns out to be a total mess for the Antipodes. They end up getting no damage done, and they all die, even though it's their active turn, all orders spent on them. So horrible outcome, although I did get lucky in discovering them a bit earlier on and giving them less orders to work with, and tanking armor saves with the Rushi is really horrible considering that these guys have very high fizz. Like, I think I rolled like a 20 for the armor save just to add insult to injury. So we take a step back now and we look at the game as it stands and we ask ourselves, well, you know, how bad is this? Ariadna have just gone in there, lost a Myrmidino, lost all the Antipodes, returned on one heating unit, but Imperial Service have lost one ninja, and that's it, and there's another 19 orders to come back at them with. So this is going to be a really hard game for Ariadna now, but don't turn off the bat rep. It is going to get interesting, I promise. This actually turns out to be quite a thought-provoking game. Other Myrmidino just taking up cover in the middle of the table behind the building, and then it's over to Imperial Service. So now we have the Guangxi coming out of the woodwork, moving around with Impetuous, going after this Myrmidino. The air fills with the sound of pistols cracking away at each other, rather ineffectually, I might add, but it's Impetuous nonetheless. So they all start moving around. We've got a few of them homing in on this Myrmidino here, as you can see. So moving out towards them and all starting to gang up on him with a pistol, but the Myrmidino is holding fast. So given I have a beautiful 20 orders to spend on this wonderful Battle Cat, we're transforming into cat mode and we're diving over the truck and moving out towards here with our wonderful 8-2 speed. The plan is to roll up the right-hand flank and go after his exposed, what do you call that guy? Spetsnaz is what I'm trying to think of. The Spetsnaz did have time to re-camo, but he is standing out there, and I know it's a Spetsnaz, so I'm going to go put some pressure on him, because that's worth a lot of army points, and it helps me control the table. So moving on through here, let's have a look. So you can see the position of the Spetsnaz up here. You can see the position of the downed ninja. I'm going to do something about that later, so the Spetsnaz has already killed him. I am now moving in with the Battle Cat. I'm going to try and set up shop around here. What I did initially was I moved into line of sight of him to tempt him to shoot me. I've got 3 wounds, so I'm not worried about getting shot. But if I tempt him to shoot me, that saves me from having to discover. So my opponent, being quite a smart player, didn't take the bait. So with the second short skill, I just moved in to take up the cover. And that will allow me to spend the next order on a discover shoot maneuver. Again, this puts you in a situation as the reactive player where if you don't react and your opponent rolls the dice, you get shot at for free. But if you do react, then there's no chance of your opponent failing to discover. They don't have to do that anymore. You've revealed, and it turns into quite a painful face-to-face shootout between the Rushi hitting on, sorry, the Sujian hitting on 11s, and the Spetsnaz hitting on a 15 with just 1 dice. My opponent takes the gamble and decides not to reveal, meaning that I'm discovering on an 8, willpower 14 minus, sorry, on a 7 actually, willpower 13 I think it is, minus 3 for camo, minus 3 for cover. Let me go check that. He is willpower 13. Now, my strategy here was that If I failed the discover, I would then move out with the Sophitek and just revive the ninja, meaning that you should be able to do that for free, because if the Spetsnaz then revealed to take one shot at the doctor, at worst I'd lose a wound to go into NWI and then just shoot the revealed Spetsnaz with the Battle Cat. At best, he would just stay there and I'd get to go and do the revival and the healing for free. Anyway, what happens is that I get lucky, I roll the discover, and the Spetsnaz is shot completely, which allows me to move out with the doctor anyway. So we've got Sophitek jumping out from cover, moving around over to here, and she's going to revive the doctor. Order Group 2 has 9 orders in it, so tons of time to go do this. She moves over there, she completes the experimental drug classified objective, and then we can spend a coordinated order moving her up the stairs into safety, the ninja over to the objective, pressing the button on that to heat the zones with a heating unit. Then we're creeping up on this Ermendino. He does a change face as the ninja comes nearby. This change face happens after the ninja doesn't move out, mind you. So we're then bringing in the Guangxi to try and box him in and finish him off. So that's what happens. Guangxi keeps moving on until he gets into close combat. Then the ninja's able to move over and clear him up. So we wipe out the Ermendino. We're leaving the Guangxi in base-to-base contact there. And then the ninja can move over and grab the other objective, which heats up another zone. So that puts a lot of breathing room back into the game there in terms of me keeping units alive at the end, and then ninja just going prone behind the objective. Over the other side, we've got the Battle Cat just trying to get some more stuff done. This Spetsnaz here is unconscious right now. So moving up on top of the box with climbing plus and a lot of speed, we're then attempting to discover this model, who I believe is a chasseur. That will reveal that this is a mine, so I know not to go near it. This Foxtrot here is just in total cover. So what happens here is that we're going after the chasseur. Chasseur is revealed and shot at, but unfortunately the cat fails to kill it. So this photo here, you see the chasseur making a really good dodge roll, pulling back behind cover. And I decided, even though I had a few more orders left to go and chase him and kill him, it's much better to just retreat, bring the Battle Cat all the way back to deployment, and changing back into to warrior form again, just to cover this this lane once again, and part of this line as well to defend the lieutenant. So a fairly positive turn there, taking out Spetsnaz, taking out Ermendino, picking up the ninja again, so we're back to 20 orders again. I've blunted his attack. He's going into his second turn having lost his Ermendinos and all of his doggos, so he's got less offensive stuff to go after me with. Very, very strong. So I'm feeling very good about this game and very far ahead. So his turn 2, he now has a Spetsnaz here. This is the secondary Spetsnaz moving up. The Spetsnaz is able to come into line of sight of some of the Guangxi that I've got left hanging around the battlefield, and is able to go after them and just blast them. This is the wonderful Spetsnaz with sniper rifle model, which you don't see all that often, but he's such a really cool sculpt. Love getting a photo of him. So that happens, he moves out, that's him there, just moves down onto the ground level, starts killing them. Can't quite get line of sight to the ninja though, so we'll have to move out with the chasseur instead. So there's a chasseur over here. Spetsnaz has moved back up on top of this to try and get line of sight, but we'll leave that to the chasseur as we just mentioned. So there he is there, coming up onto this bridge, working out a place to go prone and hang out. So then the chasseur nearby is able to go towards this objective where the ninja is, move around towards him. The strategy here is to place a mine next to the ninja initially, and then activate it so that the ninja has to choose between dodging or shooting, and is facing off against the mine blast and the chasseur. So the chasseur quite easily takes him down. Then she goes for the objective button press as well, I believe, to... Actually, that happens later in the game to heat up the second unit, but the ninja does die. We also have a little bit of a relocation, I think, from the veteran Kazakh, just moving around a little bit from his original location, and the Spetsnaz going back into camo state, so planning on relocating for a push later in the game. This is turn 2, mind you. What's happening here is that he's actually going after the Dakini. So we had the Strelok in position up here, going after the Dakini, and unbelievably, because my luck's just been amazing this game so far, Dakini rolls a crit with its ARO, but fortunately, I would have felt so bad if this was not the case, but the Spetsnaz also rolling a crit, so doesn't die, but losing the secondary Spetsnaz to a shootout like that would have been awful. But this is with one of his last orders, and ends up not going after the Dakini after all. So he, I believe he shot at the Dakini as he was going prone after a little bit of an attempt there, and didn't end up taking him out. So just wonderful luck for Imperial Service all round for this first game half. And there he is, just prone behind this billboard, getting ready for his final turn later on. Okay, so back to me. We've got a Guangxi moving out now, and tempting the Chasseur to reveal. I believe the Chasseur does reveal and hits him with a chain rifle, a flamethrower. So there's a bit of a trade there. I can't quite remember exactly what happened, but it was definitely violent. Then we have the game plan commencing for Imperial Service. Looking at it and looking at the fact that I had so many orders, like even though I've lost a few Guangxi from the first group, there's just so many orders here. So what I can do is move out with a cat, move all the way through the middle of the table, and go all the way back around this building and attack the position held by the veteran Kazakh and the Spetsnaz. And if I can kill both of them, that'll pretty much mean the game's in the bag, because I'll be way ahead on army points. His Datatracker will be dead. I'm very likely to hold the exclusion zone at the end of the game with my Datatracker. So I figured if anybody can do it, it's the Sujian. He doesn't have that much in terms of defensive abilities. I've got a Spitfire. I should be able to go over there and wreck him. So moving out, just the very long run through the middle. Sorry, I had got this wrong, guys. The Chasseur didn't die to the chain rifle, but of course gets cleaned up by the Battlecat as it comes ripping through the battlefield with its Spitfire. So that happens. The Chasseur actually dodges back behind the objective, but then of course you've got a Dakini to finish the job. So we do eventually take him down. Dakini in group 2, so not taking orders away from the Sujian's movement. Then Sujian, after taking out the Chasseur, or helping in that effort, is move it all the way around to here. We can then bypass the stairs. We don't want to go up here, because that'll bring me into line of sight of other arrows from this side of the table. Instead, we're going to go around to the other side of the flank and back ourselves around. Okay? So right around here. This is the extreme left-hand side of the table, near to the table edge, and this is going to allow us to move up using climbing plus to this point and go after these two. So the Spetsnaz can just shoot it back at me with a pistol. The veteran Kazakh can fire back with a Forward Observer Flash Pulse, or if I get too close into range, a Flamethrower. Now I don't particularly want to go up against the Flamethrower here, because if he gets lucky, I could lose a lot of wounds on my Battle Cap, and it is automatic when I'm just moving in, doesn't require a roll. If I get Flash Pulse, that's also pretty bad, because it ends the run, like I can't actually finish the job. And if I go over the wall and go into a battle mech state, warrior state, that'll increase my ballistic skill, but it may put me in range of the flamethrower. So the move that I made here, the play that I went for, was just to roll up the side like this. So just poke up and then poke back down and end each order hanging off the side, so to speak, so that I wouldn't come in range of that flamethrower. Thinking back to it now, and with the advantage of hindsight and analysis, I think I was being too scared there. I did have a full, three structure points effectively, 2 structure points plus NWI to work with. If he shoots back with a flamethrower, he's taking the full brunt of the Spitfire straight to the face with the veteran Kazakh, and that's the one model he can't afford to lose here. So I should have advanced a bit further forward. What happens here is that the Spetsnaz fires back with just his pistol, because the range band's good, and the veteran Kazakh goes for the Forward Observe Flash Pulse, because he knows that if he shuts me down, he'll actually have an advantage. So I aimed to put all 4 bursts into the veteran Kazakh and ignore the Spetsnaz, because I felt with armor 5 and with effectively 3 wounds, I could tank the pistol hits for a little while, whereas the 4 dice, I really needed to beat that Flash Pulse. Unfortunately, though, I'm ballistic skill 12 in cat form, which kind of hurts. So it's +3 for range, -3 for mimetism on the veteran Kazakh. Sometimes you forget that he's got that, but very strong. Whereas the Kazakh is just shooting at me, needing whatever his willpower is, +3, sadly. So that's actually quite strong. He needs a, with willpower 14, he'd be hitting me on a 17 with the forward observation. So this game plan of me running all the way around there just for this opportunity actually turned out to be pretty bad. So the cat, what ends up happening is that I do some shots and end up getting pretty much nothing done and having to just come back down the other side of the wall, having taken a wound from the pistol by the end of it, and actually not having killed either of these models. So you think of the first game round where I made a huge, a leap and went way into the lead in this game. I've kind of squandered that lead now based on bad decision, a little bit of bad luck. Well, not really bad luck. I mean, he's got pretty good odds to defend me off here. So that was actually poor decision making. I could have got a bit closer and threatened the flamethrower onto the Kazakh as well, but I was just too scared of being hit by the flash pulse. So yeah, just not really great. Fortunately for me though, I've got a massive order pool in groups 1 and 2, so turning now to the big resources in group 2, the Sophatect, who had hidden in this building earlier on, is moving out down the walkway and getting to a position where she can engage the Spetsnaz. The Spetsnaz just has a pistol. She's got a combi rifle and NWI, so she's just blasting them from close range. It takes several orders for her to complete this, knocking him around. He's failing guts checks, but finally she gets into range and shoots him and does kill him with just his one wound on the ground there. And then she's able to move in to try and finish the job, firing at the Kazakh with her combi rifle, and still not getting the job done. He's got the flash pulse there. Very easy to fend her off. The combi rifle having very little effect, and she ends the turn just rocking out round behind this little staircase, bit of cover there, and ends up going prone and tucks herself away. So a very ineffectual turn 2 from an Imperial Service, and I feel a bit ashamed of this because I had all the resources in the world, I had all the tools in the world, but unfortunately didn't really pick the right strategy for dealing with this very powerful Kazakh, as it turns out. So veteran Kazakhs, who knew? They're very, very good. Moving to my opponent's turn, and this is just me showing the final location of these two models. Moving to the opponent's turn, the veteran Kazakh is able to move over here, but he has very few orders left. And he's able to move over, have some shots at the Sophatect initially, but she does slink her way back into cover here. And he ends up going prone just because if he stands up, he's going to have to take more arrows from I believe, the possibly the Dakini TACbot and everything. So just hanging out here. He's in the exclusion zone. He's the only player with a Datatracker model in the exclusion zone. So if the game ends this way, he'll actually win. But I want you guys to understand that during this bat rep, or during the game I should say, I was for some reason mistakenly under the impression that all I needed to do to win was to have more points in the zone than him, and that would negate him having the Datatracker there. Not the case. You must have your Datatracker in the exclusion zone while your opponent doesn't. That's how you win. With that in mind, he activates a camo marker on his side of the table and starts moving it out towards my side of the table, and I'm thinking, what's this? So all the way through the middle and up towards the position of my Datatracker. And guess who it is, guys? It is Uxie McNeil, who rather cagily decided not to superior infiltrate, even though they had first term. She's actually been held back in reserve, and I really respect this move, by the way. I think this is very strong play. Just comes in later in the game and goes straight for it. Now that the arrows have been dealt with and the Battle Cat's in the wrong position, is able to move right around here and blast the Datatracker in the face with double assault pistols. Very effective way of doing it, because I'm shooting back on, 14s, and Uxia is blasting me in the face with her 5, assault pistols, probably also on 14s. So the Datatracker is just wiped out here, and the Sophatect obviously is on the other side of the table now, can't revive him. This means that he picks up points for killing my Datatracker. He's got his Datatracker in the exclusion zone, and I'm probably ahead on army points, but that's nowhere enough to get the win. So very sad state of affairs. With the rest of his turn, he's moving all of his models out. He knows they're going to die to the zone. He knows he's behind the points anyway, but he's moving troops out to block me from sending guys over to help out the Sujian and the Sophatect for killing the veteran Kazakh. So again, quite smart, moving things in here. Knows that I can't really send anything in to help because there's so many chain rifles and flash pulses and things which will block me. So, mind you, just going back to the army list, I believe that command tokens were spent to move certain models between groups. I don't think the veteran Kazakh was attacking the Sophatect here because he either ran out of orders, moving and shooting towards this position in the first place, or the orders have been moved between groups. I can't quite remember. There may have been an arrow he was worried about, but the Sophatect is alive at the end of this turn. Foxtrot grabbing the objective in the middle, and that's basically it. So we come to the last turn of the game, and this is the moment of epiphany where I sort of look at the app again and look at the mission objectives and realized how bad a position I was actually in. it's not really a win for me here. I've got to kill the Kazakh, otherwise I lose. Because he's got my data tracker, he's got his data tracker, it's in the right zone, I'll be hit on my classified and the army kills, but that's it. So what I want to do here, and this is a bit of a desperate play now, is to try and kill him in close combat by moving him with the Sophitect and then bringing the Battle Cat up and trying to turn the Battle Cat into warrior form, combat mode form, and doing a double team. Now, the strategy I used with the Sophitect was to use an idle, force a change of facing ARO so that he can't ARO me with the flamethrower, and then use the second short skill move to come around the corner. Now that normally works, but he's got 6th Lance level 2, so that shouldn't have worked here. However, both of us, not just me, the person that doesn't play the veteran Kazakh at all, but my opponent, who is a very experienced Ariadna player, both of us happened to forget that rule. It's not a cheat or anything. We both, forgot. This is usually where your opponent goes, nope, you can't do that. But we both forgot that the veteran Kazakh can delay. But because we forgot, the Sophitect gets into close combat easily, and that gives the Sujian an opportunity to move up there and get him. However, it's not really that easy, because he's got to actually move up and hop over these stairs and move up the side of the wall. That's going to cause a face-to-face with this Foxtrot over here, which can forward observe him and flash pulse him, meaning that if he's hit by the flash pulse, well, that's not great, because he needs his eyes to be able to see where he's stabbing when he goes after the veteran Kazakh. So if I do get flash pulsed, I'll have to go into close combat, and the Sophitect will have to do it with a CC-13 or whatever it is. So this turns out to be a bit of a debacle, but luckily I managed to pass my BTS check after failing the face-to-face roll, and then spitfiring him again, and finally getting up there to this point where the billboard blocks line of sight to any other arrows further towards his deployment. Then I can go prone, then I can do a coup de grace to get rid of the Spetsnaz who's in the way, and then finally we can move the Sujian into close combat with only, a few orders left, really. And it's not wonderful, because the veteran Kazakh is CC-17, I'm CC-16 with an additional dice. Physical's quite good here, but when we move into attack, this is where things start getting difficult. So I believe my opponent right off the bat gets a crit, so that's -1 wound already. Then I'm actually attacking him and getting some hits through, but he's armor 4 and starts rolling really high to tank the hits. And we get to a point where the Sujian runs out of orders. I think he does manage to strip off 1 wound by the end of it, putting him in NWI. But the Sujian completely out of orders and has lost 2 wounds himself by the end of this little melee. And it's back to group 2's orders. So the Sophitect, this time it's 2 dice on 13s versus 1 dice on 17. She's already in NWI, so if this fails, I lose the game. So we're starting to roll the dice. I realize this is the only way I can do it. We're not using D charges, otherwise she's -3 close combat stat. And luckily, at the end of this, the Sophitect does manage to get through there with her knife or pistol or whatever it is, and he finally fails to save. The veteran Kazakh falls lifelessly to the floor, and Imperial Service win the game. But, not very easily. We'd actually completely forgotten Impetuous by the end of that, so we'd now resolve it. It didn't change what would have happened, so Uxia starts getting harassed by these Guangxi moving around here. I decided to see what would have happened if I'd been forced to try and spend other Group 2 orders to go after the veteran Kazakh, seeing that the Sophitect wasn't really allowed to make that play if we'd played the rules correctly. I moved out with my bounty hunter trying to take out his little chain rifles and move around there, but that plan completely failed. I kept whiffing the shots and so forth. So had it not been for that earlier mishap where the Sophitect gets into close combat, this would have been a loss, and perhaps should have been a loss based on that occurrence. So we're not just talking about one outcome for the game here, we're talking about the overall thing. But let's take a step back and review the whole lot start to finish. So my opponent went first. He made the play of going after me with the Irmandinos and the Antipodes. I felt like I was actually quite well defended against that. He did get unlucky in that first turn, but not that unlucky. I just feel like his attacks were fairly weak in that first turn. My resulting, counter turn in game round 1 just did what it needed to. I revived my ninja, everybody's in defensive position, I've taken the teeth out of his alpha strike, and I've killed a couple of models in return. His turn 2, though, fairly ineffectual, moving around with troops, relocating them, and not getting a lot done, whereas my turn 2, very ineffectual, moving out with the Sujian and trying to kill him. The thing is, though, that Sujian could have just got some hits on the veteran Kazakh. I mean, it could have just... The game could have just ended with the Sujian just killing him, right? So that it didn't need to come down to the Sophitek necessarily. So there was that, mind you. And also, in that same turn, the Sophitek could have killed the Spetsnaz way quicker and could have just come in close range of that veteran Kazakh and shot him or nanopulsed him or whatever and killed him that way potentially. So, yeah, even though you look at the way this game ended, it could have just ended a bit earlier under different circumstances. So, lesson learned here. I still feel this Imperial Service list is just ball-bustingly strong. Like, it's a really, really powerful list. I'm a bit rusty with it, as you can see. Made a few mistakes, but generally, had I played a little bit better, I think this game would have been a lot less close. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned a few things. And again, battle reports aren't always about reporting one single outcome, but a variety of, in an abstract way, a variety of potential ways the game could have gone and should have gone, and what we learned along the way. Hope you guys like this one. We'll see you next time.